All right, Jimmy Ott and Paul Stone here on a Thursday talking college football. Again, our best bets pick. We do it every Tuesday and Thursday here in the College Sports Rush YouTube channel brought to you by Bet Rivers. Paul, let's get right into it and look at this first one. Let's go to the Big Ten and kind of a theme today. It's a noon Eastern type of lean on these. 4 of our 6 plays are at noon Eastern. This one's going to be on NBC, the Big Peak NBC, and Maryland catching 10 at Wisconsin. So talk about the quarterback situation. First of all, true freshman quarterback for the Maryland Terrapins, in 4-star in-state prospect Washington, who is doing pretty good, but 3-0 against really weak competition. We'll see as they step up as they go to Madison, Wisconsin. As far as Wisconsin is concerned, Billy Edwards is still questionable, according to Brett Bielema, with that knee sprain that he suffered in the opening game, the extended Labor Day weekend. Paul, Maryland, Turtles plus 10. You give it consideration here to Wisconsin, 11 a.m. on NBC.
Yeah, Maryland, they went 4-8 last season. Only one of their victories coming in conference play as the Terrapins finished 17th in the 18-team Big Ten. And entering this season, expectations, frankly, aren't any higher for the Terrapins. Predictably, as you kind of mentioned, the fact that they've started 3-0, not that much of a surprise because the caliber of competition has been quite mild, to put it mildly. They've defeated Florida Atlantic, Northern Illinois, and FCS Towson by a combined margin of 103-33. But still, there's reason, at least slight reason for optimism. As you mentioned, the true freshman quarterback, Malik Washington. I mean, he's been a bright spot. He's energized the program a little bit. Started from day one. He's thrown for 773 yards in those first 3 starts, completed 62% of his passes, average of 7.7 yards per attempt. So a lot of optimism about Malik Washington there at Maryland. Washington and the rest of the Terps, though, they do face their first true test of the year as they travel to Madison on Saturday to face Wisconsin in the Big Ten opener for both teams. And while I've been impressed with Washington in the early going, this is more of a play against Wisconsin than it is a play on Maryland. The Badgers starting quarterback, as you mentioned, Billy Edwards Jr., who actually played at Maryland last year, so he'll be playing against his former team if he's able to go. He was hurt in the first half of Wisconsin's 17-0 season opening win over Miami of Ohio. He's missed the last 2 games. There is some feeling, hearing some optimism that Edwards will return on Saturday against his former team. So I think there's a pretty good chance he's going to play. But regardless, the points to me just seem too generous. And a lot of it comes down to the fact that if a team's going to cover a double-digit spread, which Wisconsin is favored by 10 points here, they need to be able to score. And Maryland's not the caliber. They're not an average defense by any stretch of the imagination for a Big Ten team. They would be below that standard. But Wisconsin, dating back to last year, they've scored 14 points or fewer in 5 of their last 6 games versus Power 4 opponents. So they're not a scoring machine. They struggle to put points on the board. I made this game. I was kind of back and forth between 6.5 and 7, settled on 7. I'll gladly take 10. Give me Maryland and their quarterback, Malik Washington, plus 10 over Wisconsin.
Well, this one certainly put my antennas up when you came with Maryland on this one, because we got that that bowl of gumbo, half oyster po' boy versus a rack of ribs side bet on this one for that Maryland total, Paul. So we will see. But I think Washington gives him a chance. He's a true freshman, so he's gonna be erratic, but he's talented. And that's what I based my Loxley. Kept the in-state prospect at home, so he is recruited well. As far as the high school recruiting, maintaining that roster, well, that's a whole nother battle, and we'll see. But yeah, it was sort of a bleak outlook for this year. So now that they got the Rena wins out the way and they looked okay, and certainly Washington has shown flashes, we'll see. So he's capable of pulling off the upsets. My angle was they don't play a lot of the big boys. Only one of Penn State, Michigan, Oregon, or Ohio State. So we'll see about that. But Maryland plus the 10. at Madison in that one. Log into your Bet Rivers app each week to opt into a 3-pack of college football profit boosts, including a live boost, same game parlay boost, and a boost to use however you please. See the app or website for more details. Let's continue on and let's go to one of my picks here. We'll stay. This is an interesting 6 p.m. Eastern kick on FS1. Kansas 12.5 at Bet Rivers currently against West Virginia. Boy, I watched all of the West Virginia Ohio game. I watched all of the West Virginia Pitt game. That was a different team. Rivalry game early in the season, but still a rivalry game. West Virginia looked great, and they deserve to win and hold on to win against visiting Pitt as the underdog there. I had Pitt. I lost. So lost outright in that one. But I'm still chasing West Virginia. Paul was fading the Mountaineers in the Ohio game. And keep in mind, not only did Ohio beat them, but they overcame turnovers and penalties. They outgained West Virginia by 179 yards. I think that's the closer to the West Virginia team that we'll see this Saturday at Kansas. Kansas with their new digs in their stadium and with their quarterback who's been there for a gazillion years, they're going to score. They're averaging 36 a game. And, although they were outgained against Missouri, they had 2 fourth-down opportunities. Missouri, on their go-ahead fourth-quarter touchdown drive, had to convert 2 fourth downs along the way. They pop a 63-yarder to cover the spread as well. But I think that they were really close to winning at Missouri, and we respect the Missouri Tigers right now. So obvious emotional letdown after emotional rivalry win against Pitt as a dog. Rich Rod going to be there later on, but this is a tough spot for a challenge roster to begin with. Give me Kansas minus 12.5, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that they put a lot of energy into that backyard brawl with Pitt and overtime victory, 31-24 last week, as you mentioned. One of my preseason recommendations was to take West Virginia under their regular season win total of 5.5, and I'm certainly not wavering on that by any stretch of the imagination. But you're a braver man than I am, Jimmy, laying 2 touchdowns with Kansas in a conference game. I'm definitely not taking West Virginia, though. If I was going to bet on it, I'd definitely bet on Kansas. But I can't quite bring myself to lay that much wood with the Jayhawks. They did lead Missouri, as you pointed out, throughout the game. And that long touchdown run by the Tigers at the end took the cover away from Kansas as well. They certainly their backers deserve to get the money in that game. But Missouri, statistically, I mean, they just dominated Kansas more than twice as many yards, almost 350 more total yards, 595 to 254, out first down them 28-13. So, again, Kansas is, to me, they're really an interesting team this year. I think they're going to beat West Virginia, but as long as Jalen Daniels is healthy, nobody's going to be getting in line to play the Jayhawks. They're going to knock somebody off. They're not going to win the conference, but they might have a say in the pecking order, maybe even the ultimate winner. But, for me, it would be Kansas or nothing. But I'm just in this conference, a balanced conference. Even at the very bottom, they're better than most conferences at the bottom, with the exception of Oklahoma State. But be an interesting conference game, and good luck.
Big 12 is full of good stuff. This is back-to-back years at the balance. I mean, it's just you talk about blurred lines, and we talking about that. Just the win total separation between the highest win total and the lowest win total is much tighter gap than all of the other major conferences. Players who place a qualifying same-game parlay of at least $10 on eligible NFL or college football games will receive one standard entry into the weekly Squares game. Winning standard squares will be awarded a prize of $20 bonus bet. See the app or website for more details. Let's continue, Paul, and go to Army in North Texas. I've been to West Point. It's an awesome setting, man, for a college football game. Just to go visit, period. The turn on the Hudson River where they had the British had to slow down to a crawl where we could pick them off easily, Paul. But Mechie Stadium is cool, man. Check out the crowd or the shots with the turning of leaves coming up about this time of the year. CBS Sports Channel, noon Eastern kickoff. Again, 4 of our 6 picks are at noon Eastern. North Texas, the high-flying Mean Green. They scored a lot of points. We talked about that, how they transformed they were a little bit, I don't know, but made a coaching change when they were going to bowl games in Denton, Texas, but they wanted to be a little bit more entertaining with their offensive style of play. North Texas has scored a lot, but Army here, a home dog at Mechie Stadium, where they're really good at that noon Eastern start. Army plus 2.5 is what you're looking at, Paul.
I'll tell you, Jimmy, I got to go to the Navy Army game in 2022. Compliments of a former Army Navy and a buddy of mine, Stephen Westbrook. But I'm envious of you going to a game at Mechie Stadium. I've gone to a lot of college football stadiums, but I've never been there, and that's definitely on my bucket list. So I got to get there before too much time passes.
Early in the
This
season, you won't get there when it's cold, man.
No, I don't do cold too well. I don't like this 100-degree heat in Texas, but I don't like 20s or 30s too much either, especially for 4 hours. But in any event, Army obviously off a historic season. I mean, they went 12-2 last year, won their first 9 games. Bryson Daly, their bulldog of a quarterback, finishes sixth in the Heisman Trophy balloting. So just a really special season for the cadets. The 2025 version definitely going to take a step back. Daly and his 1,659 rushing yards and 32 rushing TDs are out the door. They also lost a couple of players through the transfer portal. They're two of their best players, running back Kanye Udo. He goes to Arizona State in the offseason. And their top linebacker, L.O. Mendoza, he's off to Georgia. So lose some key players that they perhaps didn't expect to lose. They're off an early season bye, which is a little bit unusual after just 2 games. They split their first 2 games of the season. As most expected, they would be 1-1 after 2 games, but they lost to FCS Tarleton State, lost that game 30-27 as a 14.5-point home favorite. And then they went to Kansas State as a 16.5-point underdog and won that game 24-21. So although people expected them perhaps to be 1-1, the results were probably flip-flop there. But Tarleton State, one thing I want to point out here is Tarleton State's a pretty good football team. They didn't need to lose that game. It's not a good loss, so to speak. But Tarleton State was ranked in the preseason top 10 nationally in the FCS. They're currently ranked third nationally in the FCS, I think, behind North Dakota State and South Dakota State. So that tells you what type of football team Tarleton has. So that Army loss might not be as bad as some people are making it to be. This contest on Saturday going to be a stark contrast in styles. Obviously, Army is going to attempt to churn clock and maintain possession with that option offense. And on the other hand, North Texas is going to throw the ball early and often. Last season, they averaged 43 pass attempts a game, threw the ball 60% of the time. So they do like to throw it. You look at this North Texas team, first of all, their quarterback, Drew Mestemaker, he started the bowl game last year against Texas State. They lost to the Bobcats. I think it was 30-28. But interestingly, that was the first game that Mestemaker had started since he started a game for the 9th-grade B team at Vandergrift High School in Austin. He had a guy who played ahead of him at Vandergrift, a guy named Braden Buchanan, who went on to be the catcher for the Baylor Bears. He was a baseball player also, but Mestemaker, North Texas's quarterback, never started a game from 10th grade on. So 9th grade B team was his most immediate start when he started the bowl game against Texas State. Now he started 3 games this year as well. And in those 4 starts, he's been impressive. It's been against, with the exception of Texas State, pretty mediocre to below average competition, but he's completed 68% of his passes, averages 8.6 yards per attempt. So he's throwing the ball well. At quarterback, a little bit of an unknown who's going to start for Army. Kel Helms started in their last game against Kansas State. Dwayne Washington, or Dwayne Coleman, rather, their starter, he was hurt in the opener, didn't play against Kansas State. Doesn't really look like Coleman's going to play against North Texas either. So I'm looking for Helms to start at quarterback. I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference. Helms, incredibly almost, he had 41 carries in that victory against Kansas State. I'm not sure Daly ever even carried the ball 41 times, but Helms, 41 carries, 124 yards, and 2 rushes. This Army team, it's so unique to watch them play, the way they maintain the football. They had 4 drives against Kansas State of 13 plays or more. They were 10 of 22 in third down conversions, 6 of 7 in fourth down. So they had a combined 29 third and fourth down conversion attempts and converted 16 of those. Just beautiful textbook option football. I think they're going to keep it away from North Texas again this year. Last year, North Texas only 3 points against Army, only ran 55 plays. So they ran it to perfection, kept it away from the Mean Green last year. I think they'll do the same thing this year. North Texas has not been a real good away favorite in recent years. Since 2018, they're only 5-10 against the spread as a road favorite. So they've got that going against them. I actually made Army in this game a small favorite. North Texas instead is the small favorite. I'll gladly take the 2.5. Give me Army plus 2.5 over North Texas.
All right, Army getting that early kick in West Point against North Texas, home dog there. Another spot here, and it's only strengthened my opinion about this spot. And this is a spot that we were looking back in the summer, and that is when Arkansas traveled to Oxford to play Ole Miss. Okay, an SEC game, and then they traveled to Memphis in the Liberty Bowl to take them. Talk about some of these, these Power Four teams traveling to these smaller conferences to play. Heck, did you see with Oklahoma when they went to Philadelphia to play Temple? They hired the St. Joseph's of Philadelphia band to play Boomer Sooner when they were scoring up and down, and that was impressive. Although beating Temple's no big deal, but how easily they beat them in a tough spot after a letdown of a big win against Michigan. And that's what it strengthens my opinion about Memphis in this spot here. Memphis went to Troy, and Troy, a lot of sharp action was on Troy last week. And they had to visit Troy with Arkansas, their SEC neighboring state, coming in the next week. All they did was outgain Troy 430 to 118, to 112, 430 to 112 last week. I mean, in a little look ahead spot, they were really good. They're very balanced as well, offensively and defensively, rushing and passing as well. They have a complete team. And when we're talking about it is a strong probability that the Group of Five representative in the college football playoff will be from the American. Boise and some of the others in the Mountain West is taking a couple of bullets early. South Florida, after losing to Miami, but splitting trips to Gainesville and Miami, they're certainly still in it. Tulane might be the best power rating at this point after their big win. Down in New Orleans last week, man, the hotel people were saying, man, we got Tulane people coming in for this game this week. So that's unusual. It was an emotional game as Darian Mensah made his trip from back to Uptown to play against Tulane. We're talking about Arkansas. And Arkansas, who they have next week? Notre Dame. Well, for the Lou Holtz Bowl, I understand. They play them all the time, right? They have never played Notre Dame, ever. And they're going to host them here. Even Notre Dame at 0-2, that gets the juices flowing in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And then Memphis at home is plus 7.5. Listen, I'll grant you, this is something we talked about, something to look at. Taylor Green, who looked so good in that bowl game last year when so many guys sat out for Arkansas. Second year with Bobby Petrino. Not our favorite character, guys, but he's a great offensive mind. And Taylor Green looks like he's hitting the ground for a running man. His numbers are unbelievable, including the Arkansas offense is 72% on third down conversions. That's number one in all of college football. But man, after a 41-36 exhausting loss where they had the ball in the last possession of the game and could have won it with a touchdown, and then looking ahead to Notre Dame, this is an impossible spot for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Memphis might be just as good at home. Extra juice to play an SEC team. Look ahead spot. They outgain their opponent 4-1. The Memphis Tigers. This is an early one as well. Noon Eastern kickoff on ABC. Taking Memphis as the home dog, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, Arkansas and that loss to Ole Miss, they expended obviously a lot of energy, emotion, and enthusiasm. And it's hard to do. We've talked about it often on this show that it's hard to just reload and just come, right back after it. And even more so when your next game is against just a blue blood, the caliber of Notre Dame. You mentioned Notre Dame being 0-2, but the fact they're still Notre Dame, these teams are playing for the first time in the school's history. So, I mean, if you like scheduling dynamics, if you love to identify sandwich spots, I don't know that there's a better one a more attractive one for the home underdog than this one. I mean, the fact, like you mentioned, that they are a non-power four, the American Conference being on the fringe of the power four, but not quite there, being able to host a power four school from the SEC, you know, two teams that are neighbors and those types of things. Just Memphis has a lot of advantages in their corner here. The one thing that concerns me a little bit is just the the talent disparity. Not that Arkansas is great on defense, but Memphis lost a lot of key guys off the team that won 11 games last year, and most notable of those, obviously Seth Hennigan, who passed for over 14,000 yards on his career and ranks 13th all time in the NCAA in passing yardage. So certainly Brendan Lewis, the Nevada transfer, dynamic athlete, but can't throw the ball at the level Hennigan. But it's got to be, as you mentioned, I mean, it's Memphis or nothing. I'm scared. You mentioned the two words though that really get me a little bit scared and a little bit leery of this play, and it's Taylon Green. I mean, that guy could, he's such a playmaker. He's so big. He can run out of the pocket. He can throw the ball. Really been a find for the Razorbacks, but the spot, incredible. For me, I hadn't pulled the trigger yet, but it'll be Memphis or nothing. And what a spot for the Tigers as they host the Razorbacks at the Liberty Bowl.
Well, damn, Paul, Seth had to play for about 18 years there, huh? Was he out of eligibility? I mean,
Now, Hennigan, how many years do you think Hennigan played there?
Yeah, I know we get with this COVID and this extra year, everything, but he's with the Jacksonville Jaguars now on their roster currently. But yes, he's the all-time. We talked about him last year coming into the season so much, but no, he is not nearly the passer that Hennigan is. So there's no doubt. And look, Green wasn't when he first started taking snaps, but he has developed these athletes at quarterback who you're trying to turn into to passers. And Bobby Petrino he's got a pretty good track record at developing some passers. So we'll see about that. Let's go on to the SEC ESPN primetime kickoff, 7 p.m. Eastern kick, and Columbia, Como in Missouri. Missouri and South Carolina, and the obvious is South Carolina 7-7 against Vandy at home, and their star, the quarterback Lenora Sellers, goes down. And it's impossible to prove these things, but it would not only they didn't score, they barely scored, but it just seemed like it deflated the defense, the crowd, the whole thing. We talked about South Carolina a lot. I like their under this year. I thought the media and the pollsters were behind. They missed last year, and they underrated a very good South Carolina team that was based on their defense. This year, you think that Sellers hope that Sellers would take that next step in his development, but he was certainly going to have to carry more of the load than he did in 2024. And so, but I mean, Virginia Tech just fired the coach, and Virginia Tech outgained them in Atlanta in that neutral site game. So now the big question is throughout the week is Shane Beamer, who went nuts. I've never seen him that emotional on the sidelines, but this line was up to 13 and a half. It's now sitting at 10. All you got to do is, follow the number. He's making some comments that he may play in this game against Missouri. Missouri 10-48. You're more interested in the total, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, South Carolina quarterback Lenora Sellers, as you mentioned, listed as questionable on the SEC availability report that was released last night, Wednesday, September 17th. Injured late in the first half of last week's 31-7 loss at Vanderbilt, reportedly suffering a concussion. The Gamecocks in that game against Vanderbilt, they did little on offense when Sellers was in the game. And then when Luke Doty came in, the backup, they did even less. I want to start by saying I'm surprised that Sellers is listed as questionable Saturday if he indeed suffered a concussion. And clearly by the line move, as you mentioned, it's not moving because these people are usually wrong, the collective masses. It would appear that he's going to play. There have been exceptions to the rule through the years, but typically, the protocol seems to have been for concussed players to sit out one game. So that's a little bit of an oddity, but I'm still sticking by my position here on this under. And it's basically as good as Lenora Sellers is, as athletic as he is, as big as he is. This South Carolina offense is anemic. I mean, they just don't have any weapons. I mean, whether it's Sellers or Doty, I still like the under. They've had, great difficulty generating offense regardless of who's under center. And I hate to use these transitive type, property examples, but I've got a couple here, and I think it has some relevance in South Carolina's case. But as you mentioned, against Virginia Tech, the Gamecocks scored 24 points, only had 328 total yards, 5.9 yards per play. Old Dominion against that same Virginia Tech defense this past weekend, they had 45 points, 526 yards, and 8.5 yards per play. So they did considerably more damage, about twice as much damage as Virginia Tech. And then we saw the game, I believe it was week 2 when South Carolina played FCS South Carolina State. South Carolina scores on 2 punt returns in the first half, but they didn't score an offensive touchdown until the second half against South Carolina State. They finished that game against South Carolina State with 253 yards, 4.5 yards per play. South Carolina State the next week, they played Bethune-Cookman. And again, South Carolina had 253 yards against South Carolina State. Bethune-Cookman went for 507, 41 points, 7 yards per play. And I mean, again, this is transitive and it can get you in a little bit of trouble, but that just gives you an idea. This South Carolina offense is not very good. Missouri's got a good defense. I think South Carolina obviously has to shorten the game, whether Sellers plays or not. They've got to, kind of muck it up and just kind of win ugly if they're going to have a chance to be competitive. So the line now, the total up to 48. I still like this game in the SEC, South Carolina, Missouri, to go under 48.
And what does Sellers do best? It certainly he trusts his legs way more than his arm right now, coming off or being just rushed, back from a concussion, is he going to run the ball less? And because he's at 240, that's where man, I don't want to be a defensive back, come up on him and take him on with a full head of steam. I mean, I call him sort of Anthony Richardson light. I mean, he is a load, but I just wonder about that. It reminds me a couple of years ago, LSU at Alabama, when Jaden Daniels, now with the Washington Commanders, the NFL Rookie of the Year last year, went out with a concussion, and the game was basically lost at that point because it was a track meet. They rushed him back against Florida. He accounts for over 600 yards and basically shows up the Heisman at that point. But I was a little surprised in that one. So I think it's maybe a little bit. They need him, and it was just. When watching that game, I mean, it was okay. We're in a game. It's going to be fun. It's going to be an even game. Diego Vanderbilt's doing his thing, but boom! I mean, the air out of the balloon in Williams-Brice Stadium when he went out. No way to prove it, but boy, it was just a routine win for Vanderbilt after that at a very difficult place to play in Columbia, South Carolina. Let's get to our last pick for this week for our best bets. Another noon Eastern kickoff, 4 of our 6 plays. Again, this will be on ESPN2. It's the Range Rover Bowl. I don't know, the TCU and SMU. And, well, listen, and these are 2 programs for the future that look bright. You want to talk about the new landscape of roster building? This is just 2 of several Texas programs that are going to be just pretty. That the future looks pretty bright. The other thing that they did was Southwest Conference, and they go Mountain West, and then the Big 12, and SMU and the ACC. SMU said, we don't need any TV money for a few years. We just need our But it was so important to secure that conference affiliation, to give their booster group, what they're going to lean on, to kind of give them some enthusiasm and some willingness to support it. They're going to be fine. But SMU lost a lot from last year, and I just think TCU is the better team in this one. Revenge spot, rivalry. They got they got pretty good, and it's the last time they're going to play for the foreseeable future. You throw them in there. And you know what I like too about Josh Hoover, the 4th-year junior quarterback from Heath, Texas. He's been there for 4 years. He's got arm talent. We saw that on that Labor Day primetime standalone game against North Carolina. He can make some throws. A lot of guys can. but he has waited his turn. He's well seasoned and he looks good. I love this spot against SMU, and I think there's still a little carryover point spread value, power rating value for the SMU Mustangs for their outstanding year last year. Give me TCU, stronger team, and all of the angles that I talked about, minus the 6.5 at home against SMU.
I'm gonna start out, Jimmy, by supporting, two of your points you made there, just in case I forget down the road here. But man, the NFL scouts, they apparently love Josh Hoover. Guy's got a lot of arm talent. A lot of talk out of Fort Worth that the NFL is really high on Hoover. And then SMU, man, they got some deep pockets. A lot of people might not understand how
Yes, they
deep their
do.
pockets are. I
Yeah,
mean, college football is obviously big, big, big money, and the television contracts is where that money comes from. Who in the world can say we want to be in your conference and we're not going to take any TV money for 10 years?
I know.
That's what SMU did to get in the ACC. That's insane. So that just gives you an idea of how deep their pockets are there on the hilltop. And, this rivalry, a lot of people outside of Texas, the DFW Metroplex, might not appreciate the intensity of this interstate 30 rivalry. These campuses separated by only 35 miles, former Southwest Conference members. Saturday's the 104th meeting between these schools and what they play for in this game. And it's one of the beautiful things about college football, all these silly little tokens that we compete for. They play for the Iron Skillet. I'm not even sure, if they cook with it or what they even do with it.
They
But
own
the Iron,
restaurant chains. They're not worried about the iron skillet. So,
so they're playing for the Iron Skillet, and it's amazing how crazy these guys on both teams through the years get when you bring up Iron Skillet. It just throws them off kilter. They go insane. So you can rest assured, emotions and intensity is going to be riding high there in Fort Worth on Saturday. You mentioned the game last year. SMU takes advantage of 5 TCU turnovers, wins that game 66-42. You've got to know that that's also weighing heavy on the Horned Frogs. This 6.5 number, it was at 7. It's come down to 6.5, pretty much market wide, including at Bet Rivers. And I'm not involved yet, but I think I'll probably get on board with you here. I think TCU is going to beat them by more than a touchdown. And like you, I think SMU, not just a lot of huge personnel losses, but they lost a running back, Brashard Smith, that rushed for, I think, 1,300 yards last year, lost some receivers, lost some guys on their defensive line. They're just not quite the same team, don't have quite the same talent level as they had last year. I think TCU is a team that could challenge for the Big 12 crown. I think they're going to beat SMU by 7 or more as well.
in our Big 12 preview, they were a team to watch because they sort of took their medicine last year and played a lot of underclassmen, or figuring that they would have a lot of them back. And Dykes was able to retain a lot of those guys. And then you got an arm talent like Navarro. So, and if you look at if there was a line back in the summer, SMU might have even been a favorite in this one based on their success last year. And TCU, not the best year, but what they had in place returning, it was SMU and a quarterback and a lot of newbies at SMU. SMU going to be just fine in the future, but right now this might be a little bouncier from them from last year's college football playoff participant. For Paul Stone, I'm Jimmy Ott. We do it every Tuesday and Thursday right here on the College Sports Rush YouTube channel, brought to you by Bet Rivers. College picks analysis, whether you want straight up picks, you want some analysis angles, those situational spots that we'd like to look at a lot with scheduling and things like that, maybe just to help shape your handicap. And we do it every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll see you next Tuesday. For Paul Stone, I'm Jimmy Ott, right here in the College Sports Rush YouTube channel.